This is the FM Gold channel of All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on decisions taken by the Cabinet. The participants are K.S. Sachidananda Murthy, political analyst, and Valsa Williams, journalist.
Welcome, Mr. Murthy. Could you brief us on the key decisions taken in the Cabinet briefing?
Today's Cabinet, maybe a feeling that it was just an instant reaction to the developments following the coronavirus, but I think this has been also the decisions taken today in critical areas like electronics, pharma, and also health sectors has been in the works for some time, and then today the Cabinet met and gave them the final shape. Because one of the things which has been agitating the government since 2014 when the Prime Minister took charge of the country has been how do we substitute imports. That we are spending a lot of money of the country and a lot of things. So that's how he came with this Make in India program in 2014-15. Today's meeting, I see a logical extension and an implementation of the Make in India program. So the decisions today taken mainly concentrated in three areas. That is one on health, one on pharmaceuticals, and the third was on electronics. So today the major decisions were how do we go for import substitution in terms of medical devices, in terms of drugs, and in terms of electronic components. And as you are aware that over the years, we have been dependent on certain countries for bulk of these imports. Electronic components have come mainly from China, Taiwan, and other Southeast Asian countries. Similarly, bulk drugs and pharmaceutical ingredients and others have also come from some other countries. So this step today was a major one towards self-reliance, that Make in India. And also it has the other thing is of job generation. There's a potential of generating 30 to 35 lakhs of jobs, which are not just semi-skilled but skilled and at the higher level, so that we are going for a big social transformation through this. So that's why today's Cabinet meeting is very significant from all these points.
Could you elaborate on the major schemes announced in the pharmaceutical sector?
Yeah. The Cabinet note itself has said that every year we are importing something to the tune of 42,000 crores worth of bulk drugs. So now this is something which requires to be substituted so that one is that we save the precious foreign exchange. Second is that we give local students, local graduates who have studied these subjects who could be this thing, and local entrepreneurs. We do not, especially in times of emergency, are dependent on a single source. So that's why we have decided that and these APIs as artificial pharmaceutical ingredients have different stages. So like every 1 out of 6 tablets in the world is an Indian tablet. So we have to get that made in here. So the Cabinet said that we'll go for a bulk drug park, and they have told the state governments. Now this is where the center-state cooperation is also there. States have been told any state which offers 1,000 acres of land for setting up a bulk drug park, they will get an incentive of 1,000 crores. So that this is a major, and then similarly for setting up this industry, the industries will get 20% of incentive towards the cost they incur and all that. Another thing is they have also said that we'll go for, because apart from drugs, medical devices. We have been having a big debate how we are dependent on different countries even for ventilators, which are very much required in the coronavirus thing, and for other medical devices, stents, cardiac stents, and various things. So the Cabinet said that we will have 4 medical device parks set up in the country, which will look at making devices for cancer, cardiological cases, anesthetics, and radiology. This is a very major this thing. So this is an incentive which is coming, and also they have said that apart from new units being set up, existing units, if they can expand their capacity, they will be incentivized. So it's a major thing, and they will also get tax and other concessions for 5 to 6 years. So it's a big movement towards self-reliance, Make in India, and Skill India also. So that is where it is, which means that we substitute even 42,000 crores of import. That itself is a big contribution to the national economy and the concept of finding jobs, and then there are so many things there. So this is one thing in the pharma
huge
sector.
Impact in import substitution.
Yes, that's right. So this, and also the idea is to establish so many parks, which means that One of the things earlier was that we had to establish clusters where such units will come up. But that had suffered somewhat in the last 2 decades due to various attitudes that, why make in India when the world is ready to give it to us so easily? You just have to order, it will come. So this again shows the change in our mindset, our policy mindset.
What about the electronics industry? Would you elaborate on the major initiatives in that sector?
Electronics sector has been one of our major things. The India success story since 1991 has always been more in the software sector. Though I would say that in the 70s and 80s, our electronics sector was one of the best in the world because again it was part of our self-reliance. And public sector industries like Bharat Electronics, Indian Telephone Industries, they were making a lot of things. But then after the economic reforms and when technology changed and imports became free, we were more dependent on imports for hardware. Though we did go for establishment hardware parks in different parts of the country, but our emphasis was more on software. Because software exports brought us a lot of income and also generated millions of jobs. The entire IT success story is that. So we have been little laggard in our development of the hardware sector. So everybody said, you want to make a car? Okay, get all the equipment from outside. You want to make a telephone, cell phone, import it. Like that. So that chain, the government said we must break it, go for again Make in India in this. So that's why they have said that in the electronic sector, they would like to assist clusters to come up, where go for production-linked incentives to companies for making components. Because one is the finished products, but the components are the critical ones. Even if you have one finished product, 80% of it is imported, or if it is a knockdown kit, CKD as they call it, it's not correct. We have to make everything from the components to the finished products here. So that's why they have said that they want to have these clusters to come up where big companies, big value chains can be set up and can generate incomes up to 10 lakh crores and give about 20 lakh jobs. So these are in different areas like automobiles, power sector, electronic components and other things. So this is another very major initiative which the cabinet has taken. And if we become self-sufficient in hardware, again, India produces the largest number of engineers in the world. So these engineers
much in demand
will be much in demand.
Right.
So, and then again, our aim is to develop a lot of entrepreneurs. So again, the entrepreneurs will get an opportunity with the kind of incentives which the cabinet has announced, and that will help in accessing funds from the banking and financial sector. So this is a very major decision, I think, which again the government has said these clusters can be established in different parts of the country, which means there will be all-round development.
Right.
People don't have to migrate to one cluster, one big cities,
which is very advisable in these times to spread out the employment sector, I think.
You're very right. Because we have educated people in every part of the country. Entrepreneurs are coming from every part of the country. It is no more restricted to 3 or 4 major cities already. So this is again another very inclusive industrial policy, I would call it.
It's going to impact across sectors, I think, around medical, auto, power sector. It's going to create jobs as well as create opportunities throughout all the sectors. So how far is it going to impact the employment sector? You have covered it, but could you elaborate?
I would look at it now. One of the major worries is that the Skill India program not being able to translate the skills into productivity, because various other constraints we haven't had. And then these are sectors which will make use of the skilled people and also train them in skills. Suppose we have a big cluster which makes a power sector component. Even switches, even plug points, even wires are imported. So we have to make all that. So for the power sector, there was one estimate which said that about 60% of the components in power sector are imported. So with this scheme, if this kind of clusters, if we can encourage complete import substitution, develop jobs, because we produce still the largest number of electrical and electronics engineers in the world.
Why send them
away, or why should they depend only on jobs in power company, distribution or power generation? So this is another big thing for the job sector, and also entrepreneurs will come up. This has a way of transforming the entire structure.
Wide-ranging impact, I think, generates skills as well as utilize them.
Yes, and then it creates wealth, it saves money which is spent to import things and also are dependent on foreign technologies. Because that is also another, at times of crisis. Now, for example, due to no fault of ours, our rupee is under stress. So, because of international reasons, so now every dollar worth of equipment we import, we are paying much higher amount. When we are self-sufficient, and also this is I'm making a leap of confidence that after some time be able to export these components to the world.
And why
That's
not?
also there.
Why not?
Because we have already in the last 6 years in certain areas achieved self-sufficiency, like in production of urea. We were one of the world's largest importers of urea. It depended on what India wants to fix the urea prices in the world market. But today we have become self-sufficient in urea product. So like that, this is a very critical area where we have to become self-sufficient and have our own industries. And also it adds a lot to something which is not financially quantifiable. Confidence of a nation as a manufacturing hub. This is again another dream which we have had for many years, that contribution of manufacturing to our gross domestic product should go up, because bulk of it is services now. But we have to increase our manufacturing contribution, and these steps taken by the cabinet today will help boost our manufacturing contribution to GDP.
So we become more and more self-reliant and don't look outwards, rather inwards. Could you please tell us something about the announcement for the Ayushman centers turning back to the health sector?
The Ayush Ministry, which had been created some years ago, hasn't had its potential realized because of the Indian systems of medicine, which Ayush covers from Ayurveda to other tribal and others. So now the cabinet's decision to go for 12,500 Ayush centers across the country. I mean, over the years, many people have acquired degrees in different systems of these medicines. There's a skilled workforce available. And then a lot of people in the country are dependent on these systems for medical treatment and things. So there's a need to provide them the access. I mean, this also has to be seen in the context that we are establishing national centers of Ayurveda and other tribal medicine. State governments are taking a lot of incentives on this. So this 12,500 centers coming up in the country will add to the general public health safety. And since they will be covered also under the Ayushman Bharat scheme, people will say, because there is this fear that when we fall ill and when you have to take benefit of insurance through Ayushman Bharat and other schemes, but we are not covered under Ayush completely. So now that gap is going to be closed, which is very important. And I think this is where the overall public health safety is being expanded. Similarly, Ayush gets its due recognition in different parts of the country.
Universal coverage for a majority of people.
And also, it gives the freedom to the citizen. Choose between allopathy and Ayush systems also.
These were not recognized so much earlier.
Yes. No, even if the recognition was there, access was not there.
Yes, access and reimbursement. This would also, I think, give employment opportunities as well as benefits to the public for health. And right now in this current situation, I think health is a huge priority. I think everyone's minds are being turned towards taking care of one's health and hygiene.
And we have a very poor ratio of patient to beds or population to beds or population to doctors. This will address that anomaly in a big way.
So more facilities also much required in the current situation, and considering the...
And more of these centers coming up in semi-urban and smaller towns will help people all the better.
Accessibility wise as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Murthy, for sharing all the details with us.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on decisions taken by the Cabinet. The participants were K.S. Sachidananda Murthy, political analyst, and Valsa Williams, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.com. You can also follow us on the News on AIR app for updates. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.